This is The Chris Berry Show. Expert information on wealth, estate, and tax planning for the second half of life. Information that you can understand. Here's your host, Chris Berry.
Welcome to The Chris Berry Show. This week, just like every week, we're going to start with a positive focus. So my positive focus is that my house didn't blow over in those windstorms we had Sunday. That was another one of those just perfect days of Michigan weather where it goes from sunny to cloudy to a blizzard to snow to rain, winds. It was so windy it actually blew my grill about a foot. So it was a pretty crazy day, but amazingly enough, didn't end up losing power. And then more of a work positive focus would be that Keller Williams, who we presented to last year, asked us to come back. They heard a lot of good things about the workshop. A lot of people said great things, so they invited us back to present. And that's one of the things is in addition to our weekly workshops where we have education on legal, financial, and tax planning for the second half of life, sometimes someone asks either myself or one of our other attorneys to present to their group. So if you're looking for a speaker on the topic of planning for the second half of life, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, financial powers of attorney, tax planning, financial planning, that type of thing, give us a call, 810-355-2584. So going to be speaking to the Keller Williams Group in Howell, as well as a couple other locations actually outside of our office. And we have something coming up at Fox Run, and funny I should mention that. That's going to be our guest today. We're going to have Allison Murphy, who is the Fox Run Director of Sales. And Fox Run is a CCRC, continued care retirement community, and I'll let Alice get into a description of what that is, as well as education a little bit about Fox Run. But we do have some weekly workshops. Every week we have educational workshops where we talk about planning for the second half of life, and I'm excited. We have some coming up Novi, March 7th, Thursday, at 10 a.m. at our Novi office, which is on 12 Mile, just north of, or on Haggerty, just north of 12 Mile. Let me get that straight. And then Wednesday, March 6th, we're going to be at our Bloomfield Hills office, which is on Square Lake in between Woodward and Telegraph. So that's going to be March 6th, Wednesday at 2 p.m. And if you want some more information, you can visit our website, thechrisberryshow.com, or you can give us a call at 810-355-2584. The workshops do tend to fill up fast. Usually we have about 20-25 people there. So if you do have questions, it's a chance to get your questions answered. If you do also have questions, you can always email us at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com because on many of our shows, we do a question and answer period. So if you do have some questions that you want read on air, feel free to give us a call at 810-355-2584 or email us at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com. And so today, what we're going to get into are 12 top things to know about Social Security. So Social Security, it's one of those important things to understand, whether you're receiving Social Security or maybe you're planning for Social Security. And so one of the things that I'm going to have for the first 5 callers of the show is a handy guide called The Baby Boomer's Guide to Social Security. So it's a couple pages, but it's chock full of all the data and details that you need to know about Social Security. So if you do want a free copy of that, give us a call at 810-355-2584, and we'll send you out a free copy of the Baby Boomer's Guide to Social Security. Also, you can email us if you want at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com. And so for the first 5 listeners, we'll send out a free copy of the Baby Boomer's Guide to Understanding Social Security. Now, of course, when you call in, I need a name and an address, as well as if you were to email over, I need a name and an address, and we'll mail that right out to you. So with that, 12 top things to know about Social Security. First thing to know about Social Security is that it's not going bankrupt. That said, it's not in great financial state right now, where if things don't change by 2034, basically Social Security will only have enough money to pay out 79 cents on a dollar. So it's not bankrupt, but if there aren't changes that are made, then the Social Security Trust Fund will be running out, and they might only be able to honor 79 cents on every dollar that's been promised. And unless they make changes, that's as of 2034. So 2034, you might be getting 79 cents on a dollar if there aren't changes made internally with the government. And that brings us to number 2. Congress will probably not take up Social Security reform anytime soon. One of the big reasons for that is just what a big, complicated issue it is for Americans, for seniors, for a lot of people, for the voting base. So any politician who's touching the Social Security question, they want to be very, very sure of their steps. They don't want to misspeak, and so there's been some hesitancy to address the Social Security issue, and there really isn't any big reform scheduled. Number 3, some ideas to restore funds are starting to take shape. So even though there isn't any specific reform scheduled, there are some ideas that have been bounced about. One of those ideas is removing the income gap. So basically the way it works, not the income gap, the income cap or the wage cap. So the way it works is if you make over $132,000 in 2019, then you're not taxed. You don't have a Social Security tax for dollars over that. So high income earners are, once you're over 132, they're not really putting into the Social Security Trust Fund as much. So if they were to remove that cap, and then they could refill the trust fund to a certain extent. And that's one of the ideas that have been bounced around. The number 4 thing you need to know about Social Security, lawmakers do not raid the trust fund. So this concept of a Social Security trust fund, they're not taking the money from that Social Security fund. That said, they are taking loans based on that are supposed to be repaid with interest. So while they're not just taking money from the Social Security Trust Fund, they are using that money and basically writing a loan to themselves with interest. Next one, many believe that Social Security can be run better. So I have a family member that works at Social Security, so I see some of the inside workings of Social Security, and let me say it's not the most streamlined system, that's for sure. But one of the things they've talked about is just the wait times. It's really increased from 2010 to 2017 when they last did a study, is that the wait times have increased by about 37%. So a lot of people think that Social Security could be run better, just like any type of governmental agency. I'd go out on a limb to say is that there might be some waste there. But yeah, so something to think about there. Next, this is number 6. Your Social Security benefits can be taxed. A lot of people don't realize that your Social Security benefits can be taxed depending on the amount of income you have in retirement. So if you have a pension plus your required minimum distributions coming out, then potentially up to 85% of your Social Security can get taxed. Now, it's not an 85% tax on your Social Security. What it is 85% of your Social Security will get taxed. So something to think about. And that's why a lot of times we are focusing on tax-efficient retirement strategies. So especially from the time that you retire until age 70, if there's a gap in there, maybe it makes sense to pay some of the tax sooner rather than later so that you can minimize the tax that you have on your Social Security. Just something to think about. And that's one of those things that we talk about a little bit in our weekly workshops, is how to avoid paying unnecessary tax. And sometimes Social Security can be an unnecessary tax. And some people are surprised to know that Social Security doesn't have to be taxed. So depending on your income in retirement, your Social Security might not be taxed. So it's all about managing tax. That's something that we can control, is when and how we pay that tax. Number 7, Social Security is not meant to be a retiree's sole source of income in retirement. And this actually gets to the point of why Social Security was created. When Social Security was created, full retirement age was 65 to get full Social Security, but the life expectancy at that time was only 63. So take a second to let that set in. And that tells us two things. One, we're living longer than ever. And number two, the Social Security was really a longevity hedge. It was meant as a longevity hedge. It was never meant to be a sole source of income for a retiree. But now, across the nation, about an average of 40% of Social Security, or individuals' retirement income is made up typically about 40% through Social Security. Now, along the same lines, this takes us to number 8, and how Social Security shouldn't be your sole source of retirement income, is that Social Security, the purchasing power of Social Security is diminishing. So the cost of living is going up, but Social Security isn't necessarily keeping up with the times in terms of your increases each year, cost of living adjustments. Sometimes it's been 2.6% that it's gone up. Sometimes it hasn't went up at all. But we know the cost of bread is increasing, but Social Security isn't necessarily keeping up with those increases. So the purchasing power of Social Security is diminishing. And that takes me to number 9. Number 9 is a lot of people don't know that you can work and also get Social Security. So there's some things to be concerned with there, where if you are younger than full retirement age and you're working, your Social Security benefits can be diminished. And then the other thing to think about is if you are working and you're collecting Social Security, chances are you're ensuring that your Social Security is also going to get taxed. So there's some tax implications there. But yeah, once you're after full retirement age, which is 66 or 67, depending on when you were born, once you're older than full retirement age, you can work without any penalty to your Social Security. If you're working and claim Social Security earlier than full retirement age, then there can be a reduction in your benefits plus a tax. But after full retirement age, which is 66 or 67 for most people, after full retirement age, you can continue to work without any reduction of your Social Security benefits. Now, there will continue to be a tax on your Social Security, but you wouldn't be penalized for working. Number 10, Social Security has gone digital. So one of the things that they're really trying to push people to do is go online to interact with Social Security. Plus, with direct deposits, they're trying to cut down on writing checks or even sending out statements. And even making claims or adjusting your claims. There's been a big push for less people to call in, less people to go to the actual Social Security office to try to streamline the process to get more and more people kind of going digital using the online tools for Social Security. Number 11, Social Security is not just a retirement program. So there's a lot of other components to Social Security. For example, there's the dependent program, disability program, Social Security disability, as well as a survivorship benefit. So there's more than just Social Security retirement. And then number 12, I found this one was interesting. Most people get more back from Social Security than what they put in. So there's an organization called the Urban Institute, which you can go to urban.org, urban.org. And what they did is they did a study, and they found that most people actually get more out of Social Security than what they put in, which I found that interesting and kind of a little scary from a governmental standpoint. But I know that's a big concern a lot of people have, is they want to make sure that they get as much as they can out of Social Security. And that's where one of the things that we can do is we can run a Social Security timing report or Social Security optimization plan for our clients to show how we can maximize what we can get out of Social Security. Because there's different strategies available, especially with married couples. A lot of times married couples will have some different options with regards to how they claim Social Security. For example, maybe one spouse files, the other spouse takes their Social Security and allows the first spouse to continue to grow their benefit. Because one thing a lot of people don't realize is that your Social Security benefits, if you don't claim them, increase about 8% a year. So whatever you would have received at full retirement age, let's call that 100%. If you wait till age 70, then that's going to be about 132%. So depending on how long you think you're going to live, it might make sense to take Social Security later versus taking Social Security as soon as you can. Because understand, retirement and taking Social Security are not married. You can separate those two things. You can retire from work and you don't have to claim Social Security right away. Now, of course, you have to figure out how you're going to kind of manage your assets during that period of time. And that's where those tax-efficient retirement strategies of maybe pulling money from the IRAs, paying the tax sooner rather than later, so that when we do get to age 70, we have the opportunity to take Social Security, and maybe now our Social Security won't get taxed. So there's a lot of different strategies. But the important thing to understand with Social Security, that it's a one-and-done thing. You don't really get any do-overs with this discussion of how you choose to take Social Security. And depending on the different types of strategies available, I've seen scenarios where it was a $100,000 swing one way or other, just dependent on how a family handled the Social Security question. And it's vitally important because Social Security makes up, on average, about 40% of an individual's retirement income. So one decision of how you claim Social Security can drastically affect your retirement. So it's important to try to maximize the benefits you're getting from Social Security. That's something that we help our clients with through Social Security timing and optimization. But I also have a free guide called the Baby Boomers Guide to Social Security if you're interested. And this is available to the first 5 listeners who call our office at 810, or call the show at 810-355-2584. We'll put that in the mail. Again, 810-355-2584. And we'll mail out the Baby Boomers Guide to Social Security, which will have some good details in there. And then also we touch upon Social Security in our weekly workshops, where if you want more information, we have they're typically about an hour to an hour and a half discussion on legal, financial, and tax planning for the second half of life. And sometimes we get into a discussion of Social Security timing there as well. And if you want more information, again, you can visit our website, thechrisberryshow.com, where you can click through, and we've gone digital as well. You can actually RSVP for a workshop right there online. So I invite you to check that out. And so in our next segment, we're going to bring in Allison Murphy from Fox Run, as she's going to talk about continued care retirement communities.
If you or a loved one is facing long-term care costs, make sure you talk with certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm, like Sherry Skelton and her family did from Fenton.
My mother has Alzheimer's. My mom just had a regular will. She didn't have anything set up in a trust. And Chris set up a brand new will, and he got everything rolling. Chris has been extremely helpful. My mom would never have gotten my dad's VA benefits if it wasn't for them. Lori, who actually did a lot of the paperwork for the VA, she was like my new best friend. I talked to her probably 2-3 times a week, and we would be on hold together while we were waiting for the VA to pick up. We were approved, and we never would have been able to do that if it wasn't for them. I can't even begin to tell you what he did for my family.
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions. Call us today.
Protect your assets from probate, long-term care costs, the IRS, and get the governmental benefits you deserve. Visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800.
Welcome back. Very excited to have Allison Murphy with Fox Run with us today. How you doing, Allison?
I'm well, thank you.
So tell me, what is Fox Run?
Fox Run is a continuing care retirement community that's in Novi, Michigan. Mm-hmm. It's one of the largest in the state of Michigan and has probably the single most comprehensive health and wellness center for seniors in the state of Michigan. So if you haven't been there, it's a pretty fantastic place.
Yeah, I've taken tours. I've been there many times. It's a great place. Highly recommended. So you mentioned a key word there, continued care retirement community.
Yes.
What is that?
So a continuing care retirement community is a place where if a senior has some kind of health hiccup in their future, they can get all of their care needs in one place. So most people, when they move into Fox Run, they start off in independent living. Should their health care needs change, we can bring in home health to try and support them in independent living. But sometimes there comes a time when a family member really needs to move and have 24-hour care, in which case then we offer assisted living. But sometimes even if someone's living in independent living, Maybe they take a fall and they go to the hospital, and upon discharge from the hospital, they need to do a little bit of short-term rehab. That's also something that Fox Run can support. So we offer rehab, we also offer long-term care, we also offer memory care. So whatever the changing healthcare needs of someone might be 10, 20 years down the road, we can pretty much support everything outside of a hospital stay.
Yeah, and you touched upon it, but one of the things that I feel makes Fox Run unique is that continued care retirement community, that concept of not having to do a lot of transitions.
Absolutely. And you find right now there's so many people that are jumping into the senior housing game, and they're building independent living or they build assisted living. But when your healthcare change, they don't have the supported services to keep you in place. So now you have family scrambling to find out where's the next place I have to go. It's more research. It's more confusion. It's a new change of scenery for the senior, which can be very, very difficult. So the beauty of Fox Run is I tell people, gosh, if you're going to make a move, only move one time to a place that's going to have everything that you might need in the future.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Sometimes I see families where mom or dad's hopping between 2 or 3, 4 different communities. They move in, figure out it's not a good fit, or there's, as you said, a health hiccup that happens, and now they need to transition out. And it can be difficult for seniors. And so I'd imagine the fact that we can do all of this care in one spot must really appeal to a lot of married couples, right?
Oh, indeed. I find we are heavy married couples upon coming in. But even, if somebody that has predeceased, they've lost a spouse, it's also a wonderful environment. But we have a little bit of everybody that moves into Fox Run.
Sure, yeah. So how long have you been with Fox Run?
I have an interesting story. I started with Fox Run in 2001.
Okay.
So it's almost been 2 decades that I've been there. And I was with Fox Run right until the community opened. And then I moved with our company out to Chicago and opened up 2 very large continuing care retirement communities out there. And then I've been back now to Fox Run about 2 years. So I've had opportunity to help open up sales offices across the country.
Sure.
I've probably been in hundreds of retirement communities. So my experience is pretty vast and wide.
Yeah. So how does Fox Run compare to all these different communities?
I tell people wholeheartedly, I 100% believe in our product. I think that it is the best around. I tell families all the time, please go and do your research, look at other communities, try them out. But I promise you're going to come back. And there's so many reasons for that, not just because of the healthcare components, but a big concern that a lot of people have is, what if I should run out of money? With the changing healthcare needs, long-term care can be very, very expensive, and it's a real concern that people have. And part of the beauty of Fox Run is that we offer a home for life guarantee. So if someone should happen to run out of money through no fault of their own, maybe it's a long-term health issue, we guarantee that we're never going to ask you to leave the community for the genuine inability to pay.
Nice. Wow. And that must make families feel so much safer knowing that they have a home for life.
It does.
Good name for the program.
Yes.
Right?
Because I've seen it on the other side, too, where if somebody, in some of the other communities I've been, if families run out of money, now the children are picking up the bill, or the mom or dad has to move into a Medicaid facility, which means another move. And, not all Medicaid facilities are built the same. So some are better than others. And, that's the beauty of Fox Run, is that they can stay and not have to worry. We take away that worry of what if.
Right. Yeah. And that's why a lot of people visit our office, is because they're concerned about running out of money. And I've sat down with families where they thought they were in a great assisted living that was maybe costing $5,000, or assisted living with memory care $8,000 a month. They thought it was a great location for mom or dad, but the question was, what happens when they run out of money? And unfortunately, like you said, you're looking at another transition, right?
Yes.
So now, Fox Run, how much does it cost is the question that everyone wants to know and ask, I'm sure, right?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. We're a very unique financial model, different from the rest of the industry. And I think there's a lot of misnomers about people and what they believe about Fox Run. We get a reputation that it's expensive to live at Fox Run, but truth be told, if people really did their research and compared apples to apples of what they'd spend monthly at a rental community versus Fox Run, we have shown our value for price paid. Our entries are much lower. Our monthly fees are much lower than all of our competition. But because we require an entrance deposit, people get this feeling that we're expensive. But maybe I can explain that if you
Sure,
give me just a quick moment to kind of explain.
Yeah.
Most seniors are sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity in their home.
Mm-hmm.
It's money that they have. It's money that they're not using actively. But when people move into Fox Run, typically what they do is they sell their home, they take the equity out of their home, and they place it down as the entrance deposit at Fox Run.
Mm-hmm.
That entrance deposit is 90% refundable to them or their estate whenever they leave the community. And then it gives them that home for life guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do that, part of the reason why we take an entrance deposit is that when Fox Run builds a building, we're not carrying any long-term debt. It costs $30 million to build a new building.
Oh,
so instead of paying amortized interest and long-term loans, we take an entrance deposit, we pay off the construction loan, so that way it keeps monthly fees down, and then that way the monthly fees really are being used for the services that people are receiving every day. Whereas when you look at our competitors, part of the reason why their monthly fees are higher is they're absorbing that cost, those amortized loans and those long-term interests right into the monthly fee. So residents will pay more over the 10 or 20 years that they live there than they would at Fox Run.
Oh, wow, interesting. I guess I never even understood that myself of what it went to. So that's very interesting to know. So you mentioned healthcare components. What are the healthcare components that Fox Run can handle?
Sure. So in independent living, we offer all kinds of different health and wellness. Our number one goal is to help keep people healthy and active. So we'll have a gym and a fitness center. We have programming there. But we also offer an on-site home health and home support. So maybe it's just a small little health hiccup. Someone has a hospital stay and might need some medication reminders, or maybe they have poor circulation and need someone to help them come in and put on a TED hose. Just some minor things we can support quite a bit in home health right in their independent living apartment. But then we offer assisted living. So in assisted living, it's a smaller environment. There's a nurse that's outside the door 24 hours a day. Programming's included. Meals are included. And those are really for people who their physical needs, they've become a little bit more frail.
Sure.
And maybe just need that supported services more regularly, 24 hours a day. If someone should have any kind of cognitive issue, we can support in independent living. We do have an adult day program. So when you mention couples, what I often see is, let's say a couple comes in, and let's pretend it's the wife who has some failing memory issues. The husband would be the caregiver.
Right.
But caregiver burnout is a real thing.
Of course.
And so we also want to protect the spouse who's doing the caregiving. So we offer an adult day program. And that way, if dad needs to go out and go shopping, or he wants to go to the gym, or he wants to go to a Tigers game, there's specialized programming where the wife could be with some people all day, get a meal, offer programs. We would support her until he comes back home. So that's a nice program that we try to keep people together as long as we can.
Yeah.
And we can support and take some of that burden off of the person who's bearing all the burden of that.
Yeah.
But then we have also an on-site rehab. And again, if someone has a short-term hospital stay and they need to still get better, but they're not quite ready to go back home, they can come in and do rehab. And we have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and then we have long-term care as well. So in that situation, someone is, in a position where their health isn't improving, they're going to need that 24-hour long-term care for a long period of time. But then there's a couple other little hidden components in Fox Run. We have our own medical center. So in independent living, residents can walk down and see a doctor.
Oh, nice.
That's something you won't see in any other retirement community.
Right.
You might see a visiting doctor who comes once a month, once
Sure.
every other week, something like that. But we have 5 geriatric physicians who
wow.
their only practice is here for Fox Run. And then also on site we have a podiatrist, an audiologist, an ophthalmologist. I did mention we do speech therapy, occupational therapy. So we do quite a bit right in our community.
It runs the whole gamut.
It does.
Yeah. So where do most people enter kind of the environment? Is it independent living side, or is it the assisted living side?
It is. Most people come into independent living. Part of the reason is the lifestyle at Fox Run is just amazing. It's like a college campus for seniors.
Yeah.
So the goal is come in while you're young, travel the world, learn a language, do all the things you ever wanted to do when you go into retirement. And then should you need those services later, then we're there to support you. I can't tell you how many independent people have said, I didn't realize the value of all those healthcare components until we had a health hiccup and needed them. But most of the time, people are coming to us just because they're looking for a lifestyle.
Sure. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a cruise ship almost.
There's a lot of people describe us that way. That's a great way to put it, yes.
Yeah. So when did Fox Run open?
So we've been open 15 years.
Okay.
So 2003 was when we opened, and we started off with one clubhouse and one residential building.
Oh, wow.
And at this point, we have two 50,000 square foot clubhouses, 10 residential buildings, and then a care center. And in addition to that care center, we are going to put a shovel in the ground and do an expansion. So we'll be adding another 90 assisted living apartments, which should open sometime next year.
Sure. So what's next for Fox Run? You mentioned adding in the assisted living. Any big other plans coming up?
Yes. Growth happening at Fox Run. So as we see, the aging of America and baby boomers are coming up, just the number of seniors that are looking for really good senior housing has exploded. Yeah. Our demand has gone through the roof. So in the last 5 years, we've doubled the number of new leads coming into our sales office. This year alone, from 2017 to 2018, we had a 26% jump in the number of new leads. So we as a company recognize that there's just huge growth opportunities. Because Fox Run sells out pretty quickly, we do at this point have plans. We haven't announced anything officially, but we are looking into the opportunity of building a whole third neighborhood, which would mean another clubhouse, more amenities, potential more residential buildings, just because we have so many people interested in a really good retirement community.
Sure. So when you mention neighborhood, can you explain what that is?
Sure. So our model is typically one clubhouse. So our clubhouses in general size are very large, and then they support usually 4 to 5 residential buildings. As we are making plans for a potential third neighborhood at Fox Run, this will look a little bit different. It won't be a standalone clubhouse, and we will have an integrated model. So in the same building where there's dining, and we're talking about a pickleball court, and we'll have all different types of fun amenities, there will also be residential apartments inside that same building. But one thing to know about Fox Run, no matter if you're on the north side of the building or the south side of the building, everything connects through a climate-controlled walkway. Okay. So a resident doesn't ever have to go outside to get access to that clubhouse or swim in the pool or eat in the dining room or do all the things that there are to do. So the whole community will connect, which in January and February is a wonderful thing to not have to go outside.
Yeah, not have to deal with the wind and
Correct.
the chill. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it sounds great. So if someone wants more information, what's the next step for them?
So our sales office is there Monday through Friday. We are here to help educate people. I always shy away from the word sales because people get nervous that we're going to pounce upon them and make them do something they don't want to do.
Sell them a timeshare or
correct,
something.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the way I look at our job and the way that my team looks at it, we're here to help educate families. We're here to offer solutions to problems that they might have, or even solutions to problems they might not know they're going to have in the future. So we have a sales office. If someone would like to get in touch with us, there's a couple of ways. You can either call the office at 248-926-5200, or we have a website, which is foxrunnovi.com, and you can request an information packet to be mailed to you through that way as well. But I always encourage people, come for a visit, because you really have to experience Fox Run to fully appreciate everything that there is to have and see.
And Allison, I appreciate you joining the show. And like you said, Fox Run really is unique. I was excited to have you on the show so that our listeners could learn a little bit more, some from the inside. And again, what's the phone number if they want some more information?
That's 248-926-5200.
And then the website?
It's foxrunnovi.com.
Well, Allison, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I encourage all the listeners, if you are considering taking that next step, Fox Run, you need to check it out. It's like going on a cruise ship. So with that, join us as we get into our third segment today, and we'll talk about some of the questions and answers. And again, we'll have Allison's contact information in the show notes, so if you want to get a hold of her, you can. Thank you. Join me after the break.
Certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm in Brighton can help you protect your assets from the cost of long-term care, and they can also help you with estate planning, like they did for Linda Emerson.
I had to redo my will. It weighed on me that I hadn't changed it. I wanted to make everything easy for my daughter whenever I do keel over. But I went in, it was very professional, and sat down with Chris. I would definitely suggest him because he knows his stuff and he's not aggressive. He's, very friendly and makes you feel comfortable because I think he realizes it's not a comfortable thing for people. It was just an easy process. I came out of it and I told my daughter, "It's all yours, kiddo."
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions. Call us today.
Visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800, 810-214-3800.
Welcome back to the Chris Berry Show. So it's great to have Allison talking about Fox Run. Again, it's a great option if you're looking for a continued care retirement community. They're really known for kind of going over the top. And like I told her, you walk in there, it reminds me of a cruise ship. So it's great that she was able to come on the show. Now what we're going to do is get into some of the questions and answers of our listeners. Before that, one thing I do want to mention is that we've started our Alzheimer's or Walk to End Alzheimer's team. So every year, one of the things that we really support is the Walk to End Alzheimer's. And it's coming up in the fall, and so we've organized our team. In fact, just last week, we had a fundraiser at a Mod Pizza where they were donating 20% of any money that comes in during a period of time to the Alzheimer's Association. So again, and we've had Lauren Kovac, we've had people from the Alzheimer's Association, Dr. Bruno on the show, talking to us about Alzheimer's. It's something that's near and dear to our heart as well as a lot of our clients' hearts. So it's something that we strive to do what we can. So if you want to help participate, one of the things you can do is go to our website, thechrisberryshow.com, and click through, and there'll be a link to take you to the Alzheimer's page, where you can kind of read why the fight's important to me, but also you can do a couple of things. You can join our team by making a donation, even if it's just $5. That would be awesome. Or if it's more, that would be great too. Or you can join us for the walk. So the walk will be coming up in the fall. And it's a great day to raise awareness. We actually shut down Main Street here in Brighton for the walk typically. So we're really excited about that. Last year as a team, we raised over $12,000, and as a walk that we're on the committee of, we raised over $178,000 to go to Alzheimer's research with the idea of trying to find a cure to Alzheimer's. So please take a second, if you're not driving, to go to our website, thechrisberryshow.com, and then click through to learn a little bit more about the Alzheimer's Walk, why I walk, and maybe consider donating if you don't mind. So with that, I want to get into our questions and answers. So our first question this week, and again, if you do have questions, you can email us anytime at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com, as well as giving us a call at 810-355-2584. So the first question is from Gene. What options do I have for money other than CDs? I have money that I want to save, but not put in the market, but the bank is only offering 2 to 3% on a CD. Are there any alternatives? So one of the things you can look at is what's called a MYGA, MYGA, which stands for multi-year guaranteed annuity. So you might be familiar with fixed index annuities. Typically they have a long surrender period where you have to go 10 years before you can fully get access to all your money. though they often have allow you to take maybe a 10% withdrawal each year penalty-free. But what we have is what's called a MYGA, which is a multi-year guaranteed annuity, and this runs on a platform of typically 5 years. So it's a good CD alternative if you're comfortable with a time horizon. CDs have a little more flexibility in terms of the time horizon, so you could have like a 6-month CD or 13-month CD, 2-year CD, 5-year CD. But what a MYGA is typically it's locked in at a 5-year time period. So the idea is that you allow the money to stay with the company for the full 5 years. Now, the nice thing about the MYGA versus CDs is typically you're going to get a much better return on your investment than you would with a CD. For example, a CD might average 2 to 3%, which is barely keeping up with inflation, versus a MYGA might be 5 or 6% potentially. But again, you have to be comfortable with that time horizon. So a lot of times it's understanding how you're going to use the money and having a bucket plan in place of what money you're going to need now, so within the next year or so. So if you're planning on using this money in 6 months, probably a MYGA doesn't make sense. Maybe a short-term CD makes sense. But if it's money that's going to be used maybe 5 years or later, and you want principal protection, so you want to make sure your principal is protected, and you want it to do better than a CD, then maybe a MYGA is an option for you. So it's a good CD alternative, especially if you have lots sitting in CDs. You might want to explore something like a MYGA, which can give you the same guarantees through an insurance company, not through a bank, but a better rate of return if you're comfortable with the time horizons there. So hopefully that was helpful, Gene. There are alternatives out there. So number 2, should we get permanent life insurance? And this is from Larry. My wife and I in our early 40s, we have a 4- and 6-year-old. We know we need insurance, but not sure whether we need term or permanent insurance. Which one makes more sense? Well, it's really going to depend on your situation, but there is a difference between term and permanent life insurance. Term life insurance, basically the way it works is for a term, a time period, you're making a bet with the life insurance company. And the bet is that over, let's say, 20 years, that you're going to pass away sometime in that 20 years. And if you do, congratulations, the life insurance policy pays out. The downside is you've died. Now, the flip side of that is what happens if you live past the 20-year term. Congratulations, you're still alive, so that's a good thing. That's a positive focus. The downside is all that money that you put towards that insurance was lost, and the insurance company kind of wins. So term insurance, it's important as long as you have specific needs. So maybe young children, maybe paying off a mortgage, maybe you want to cover if one spouse is the breadwinner. So term insurance should be something that is explored depending on your situation. Now, permanent life insurance gets a little bit more complicated. And there's different types of permanent life insurances. I personally like what's called indexed universal life insurance policy. So with an indexed universal life insurance policy, it's a form of permanent insurance where it's never going to run out as long as you continue to pay the premiums or you pay up those premiums. But the money that goes into this, one part of it is a death benefit, but then the other part is you're generating a cash value. And that cash value, based on the tax code, can grow inside of this policy tax-free. And so this is where a lot of times we see what's called an indexed universal life insurance policy. So it's tied to the index. So the money that you put into this type of product is tied to like the S&P 500. Now, if the S&P goes up, say, 20%, you might only get a 10% on the upside. But the nice part of it is on the downside, you don't end up losing anything. So if the market goes down, you wouldn't lose anything. So it's a form of investment, almost like a Roth alternative in a certain sense, because the money that grows inside of there, you can pull that money out tax-free for things like college, for young children. You could use it as another source of tax-free retirement income. So a lot of times, maybe if you have young children, a combination of permanent as well as term life insurance makes sense because for sure, I'm guessing you want to cover the income replacement, covering the things for like braces and college, that type of thing, or maybe paying off a mortgage. So maybe a combination of term and permanent insurance, depending on what's going on. Brings me to number 3. So our third question today. My wife and I have wills prepared by an out-of-town law firm, and this is from Alex. Can these be included in a trust by another law firm? We have existing wills but want to explore setting up a trust. Can they be used or will they need to be recreated? Well, Alex, most likely what's going to happen is that when you do a trust, if that's the route that you're going to go, the wills would be updated because right now the wills probably say it goes out right to spouse and then maybe kids or something like that. Well, when you do a trust, you have to do what's called a pour-over will. Well, you don't have to, but it's generally recommended to do what's called a pour-over will. And so what happens with this is that if there are any assets that end up in probate, they pour over into the existing trust, or they get knocked into the existing trust. So the beneficiary of the will ends up being the trust. Now, keep in mind, with a will, we don't want to rely on that because all that a will does is gives instructions to the probate court on how to administer your estate. So if you're looking at avoiding probate and controlling that distribution, you don't want to rely on the will, and you want to make sure that that trust is properly funded. So, yeah, Alex, if you are looking at updating, getting a trust, you would also, as part of that, update the wills as well. Now, normally, it wouldn't be something, a huge expense, I would think, but it's something that should be done. So, yeah, you should look at having those wills created because now you need to do what's called a pour-over will. So you'd have to update the will, yes. Next question, what are the steps of preparing a will? What is the difference between a will and a trust? This is from Evan. I'd like to disperse my property, my cash, my jewelry, and real estate to certain members of my family. Are wills legally binding to the point no one can attack it, even if they file motions to have it reviewed by a higher court? So Evan's asking, kind of, how do you prepare a will? What is the difference between a will and a trust? And it sounds like he wants to kind of disperse the stuff to the people he wants, and then ask whether they're legally binding. So let's start with the difference between a will and let's start with the steps of preparing a will. So anyone can do their own estate plan. So you don't necessarily need to hire an attorney, though often it is recommended. Because you don't even have to represent yourself if you're charged with a crime. You could represent yourself if you wanted to. Now you can imagine how that would go if you were charged with some heinous crime. Well, similarly, you can write your own will. And all you have to do is just sign it. If you write it in your signature and in your handwriting, it's what's called a holographic will. So all you'd have to do is just sign and date it, and then there you go. You have a will. Now, what differentiates a will between a trust is that a will, all that it does is gives instructions to probate court on how to administer your estate. So a will does not avoid probate. A will is your ticket to probate court. And most people want to try to avoid probate because it's a court process, it's time-consuming, it's public. Anyone can see what goes through probate. So when Michael Jackson passed away, everyone was looking at his will. Granted, you're probably not as famous as Michael Jackson, but if there was, say, $300,000 going to little Johnny in the will, everyone knows that little Johnny is getting $300,000. So there's reasons why you'd want to keep things private. But then it's costly. National average is 3 to 5% of any assets going through probate get eaten up in costs, whether it's inventory fees, filing fees, publication fees, and sometimes attorney fees. And then it's time consuming. In Michigan, by statute, for a probate process or for a will to go through probate, by statute, it's going to take at least 5 months. More often than not, longer than that. Because you have to wait for the publication to creditors to run. That's a 4-month process. But yeah, by statute, it takes at minimum 5 months to go through the probate process. So a lot of people do have the goal of trying to avoid probate, and that's where a trust comes into play. So think of a trust kind of like a suitcase, okay? As long as you put things into the suitcase, you can pass that suitcase on to someone else if something were to happen. So with a trust, you fund the trust, you put the assets in the trust, you would serve as the current trustee, so you'd be in charge of the trust, so you decide how the assets are invested, that type of thing. And then if you were to pass away, then you can pass that trust to a successor trustee who can then administer the estate, basically dispersing the assets where you want. So, Evan, you mentioned you'd like to disperse property, cash, jewelry, and real estate to members of your family. What I would suggest is you could set up a trust. You would serve as the trustee of the trust while you're alive and well, and then God forbid something happened to you, you've appointed a successor trustee who will then follow your wishes. And they have to follow your wishes because the trust is an agreement. And if they're going to serve as trustee, they have to follow what your wishes are. Now, you ask about, can this be attacked? Well, more often than not, if you're looking at a will-based plan or a trust-based estate plan, a will-based estate plan would be attacked more often than a trust-based estate plan, just by the nature of it going through the court process. So if you want to try to avoid any type of disagreements, a lot of times we recommend a trust is a better option on how to do that. And then there's language in the trust that we could include so that if someone were to contest this, to challenge this in court, they could be stricken from the trust, written out of the trust. They could be disinherited. And that's one of the things that a lot of times we would include in the language in the estate plan would be a no contest clause to say if someone challenges this and loses in court, then their share it would be treated as if they've already passed away, predeceased. So they could be disinherited. And that's called a no contest clause. And that's something that could be built into a trust or a will. But if you are looking to distribute your assets to avoid probate and increase the chance that the document will not be challenged, then a trust would probably make more sense in your situation. So next up, we have Judy. And what Judy is asking is if I write up my own will and get it notarized, then what? Do I have to hire an attorney or lawyer to do anything? Where do I store it? Do I just want to write up a will so that when I pass away, my husband and myself are protected? So again, yes, you can write up your will. You can write up a holographic will if you want to. You don't have to hire a lawyer to do anything. Where do you store it? You could file it at court, which we don't necessarily recommend, but a lot of people store their legal documents wherever they store their other important documents, maybe a fireproof safe. And you say that you want to write up a will so that when you pass, everything goes to your husband. Well, that's probably going to happen mainly through joint ownership and beneficiary designations. You don't necessarily even need to write up a will to make that happen. And then also, keep in mind, even if you don't write a will, we have the laws of intestacy that say that if you were to pass away, a majority, if not everything, would go to your husband. So you don't even have to almost bother writing up a will because that's what the default rules of Michigan say. Now, if you want to avoid probate, especially upon the second death, then you might want to look at other options. And with that, I want to thank everyone for listening to the show. I hope everyone has a great week. Again, check out the website, thechrisberryshow.com. Click through for more information on Alzheimer's. And thanks to Allison Murphy and Fox Run. Take care.
Learn more about Chris Berry and how he can help your family by visiting online at thechrisberryshow.com. That's thechrisberryshow.com. You can also call Chris Berry at 810-355-2584. That's 810-355-2584. This program content reflects the opinions of Chris Berry and his guests, not the elder care firm, Prosperity Capital Advisors, or the C.J. Berry Group, and is subject to change at any time without notice. Content provided herein is for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as investment or legal advice, or a recommendation regarding the purchase or sale of any security, or to follow any legal or tax strategy. There's no guarantee that the strategist's statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. All investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There's no guarantee that any investment plan or strategy will be successful. We recommend that you consult with a professional dedicated to your needs. This program is furnished by the Elder Care Firm.